It's Debbie Potts, and I'm going down another rabbit hole about how you can improve the aging process. Let's dive into these hot topics: longevity, VO2 max, muscle health, metabolic health. What do you need to do to improve your future self today?
Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie, and I just wanted to give you a quick little message from one of our sponsors, Element. It's spelled LMNT, but pronounced Element. If you haven't heard about this, Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means there's a lot of salt with no sugar, and it's formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited for those doing a keto, low carb, or paleo diet. And I think this is great for athletes, especially in the summertime and when you're training in warmer climates. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. None of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers. That's it. I like the unsweetened one because the other flavors do have a little stevia, but stevia doesn't do well in my body. So I prefer the unsweetened Element, and I like the packets because I can throw them in my bike bag when I go on a long bike ride or when traveling, and I can just dump a packet in my water, and it keeps me so much more hydrated. Because remember, we don't sweat out water, we sweat out minerals. So check it out. You've got a nice little gift from them if you use our discount code Drink Element. I'll put the link in the show notes. But using the code Low Carb Athlete, you get a free gift with purchase. You get a free Element sample pack with any order when you order with Low Carb Athlete on our special URL code. So support the podcast, support Element. It's backed by science, and we love what they're doing. So try it out. What are you doing May 31st this year, 2024? May 31st to June 2nd, you could join me in Austin, Texas. KetoCon is now presenting Hack Your Health, which I am excited to be attending. I'm not speaking this year, but I still wanted to go and be with my community. The speaker lineup is pretty impressive, as Robin, the organizer, head of KetoCon, Hack Your Health, has done an amazing job on creating more of what I call the holistic method to improving your health, your aging process, your future self. Doing what we can do now, hacking your health to improve how you are going to be showing up to life when you are 80, 90, 100 years old. I, obviously, if you listen to this podcast, am all about improving the aging process after watching what happened to my dad in the hospital a year and a half ago now. And I just was looking at his lab tests that I found in my office and going through everything that the doctors in traditional medicine don't do, but they don't treat. They just treat with supplements. But how are supplements, medications? But how can we take ownership of our health and not be that person that's sick in the hospital and relying on different prescription drugs to get better? And I find the solution is taking ownership of my own health. And Hack Your Health conference this year in Austin, Texas has an impressive lineup of not just keto carnivore. That's why I'm excited to go, because if you or like me, I'm sick of the word keto, and I'm now sick of the word carnivore. I'm becoming sick of cold thermogenesis. I really like to look at what we can do to improve our overall health from the inside out with nutrition, with exercise, with sleep hygiene routine, with stress management, with supplements when we need to because we can't get the right nutrients from our food we're eating for various reasons. Often it's just changing how we eat and adding in some digestive enzymes and getting the stomach more acidic. But you can come and learn not just about nutrition, but all areas of health and how you can improve your future self. So I know my friend Jody Cohen's speaking on opening up the drainage pathways to support healthy detox and optimize performance. We've got another one of my favorites, Judy Cho from The Carnivore Cure, talking about troubleshooting on a carnivore diet. We've got, of course, my favorite, Reed Davis, the founder of our FDN practitioner program. Of course, Maria and Craig Emmerich are always there. And we've got some new people I have not talked to before that I'm looking forward to maybe setting up interviews. And then, of course, my friend Dr. Amy, the thyroid expert, is going to be presenting the forgotten thyroid hormone. We've got a lot about carnivore, but also about blood sugar and talking about insulin resistance, fat loss, energy, metabolism. And then there's a seminar on sleep, really important about sleep. I find that a lot of people just talk about changing how they eat, but they're not managing their stress and prioritizing their nutrition. Then we've got another favorite, my friend and Dr. Annette Bosworth, the Boz, talking about an interesting topic here. It says why you should drop acid, but she's talking about uric acid. And then we've got Dr. Eric Berg, which I have watched many of his YouTube videos. He's talking about prolonged fasting, a balanced perspective, who should embrace and who should avoid fasting, which I think is another fascinating topic as I've been diving into fasting for who's fasting good for, because I know we've talked a lot on this show that fasting too much for the athlete that's fit and active, and the female athlete that's aging shouldn't do so much fasting. So we've changed a lot of our perspective of trial and error, course correct. So anyways, I just wanted to tell you, you should check out the lineup for Hack Your Health. The speaker presentation is impressive and it's growing, and I will be there, and I might even bring my Pinoy metabolic testing kit and do some resting metabolism testing in the Hyatt. But you can check out the website hackyourhealth.com and look up attendees, and the ticket prices are pretty impressive. You can get a general 3-day pass, only $249. And I know Robin gave me a discount for my podcast listeners if you want to join me. So send me a message at the Low Carb Athlete at iCloud.com or find me on my website, debbiepotts.net. But come check it out. And there's really good barbecue across the street. And we can go running in the morning, and you go under the scary Bat Bridge and do some outdoor workouts, and then go to the conference. And then I usually go do some strength training in the gym. I like to stay at the Hyatt, but there's many hotels all around there. So check it out. Let me know if you want to join me, and come over to Hack Your Health May 31st to June 2nd. All right, let's get back to talking about how you can improve your longevity markers and what those are and how to test them, get some baseline data. All right, so we hear Dr. Gabrielle Lyon in her book, Forever Strong, talking about the importance of muscle protein synthesis. We've talked a lot about it and how to prioritize protein and lifting heavy weights, because we want to focus on muscle health as an important part of aging. Then we hear Dr. Peter Attia, and he's also talking to Huberman and Rhonda Patrick, and they're all talking about VO2 Max marker for your biggest marker to show how well you are going to age. So longevity marker, VO2 Max. And that involves metabolic testing, as I do with Pnoe. As I said in the previous episode, it's not easy test to do, but it's say 9 to 12 minutes long and you're going up to max. But also we're finding your heart zones, and which I said in the previous episode, we need to get that data to figure out what you as a unique individual need to do to improve your VO2 max. So VO2 max marker for longevity is important, but it's also just a number, and it's more about what are you doing about it to improve your aging process. So that's kind of my personal pet peeve that's out there, because there needs to be specific action items, or else it's just a number, and we want to improve the aging process, so it's about doing something about it. Okay, and then we also hear about metabolic health. Metabolic health, what to do to improve metabolic health for improving the aging process. So let's go into each of these and create some action items for you that you can do without seeing me for metabolic test or doing your blood chemistry analysis or looking at your GI tests and other things that I like to do with my clients. So VO2 max, we went into the previous episode. VO2 max is maximal oxygen consumption. It's a measure of the max amount of oxygen a person can use during intense exercise. A higher VO2 max is associated with a better cardiovascular health and endurance. This reflects the efficiency of the cardiovascular and respiratory systems in delivering oxygen to the working muscles. The connection to aging, VO2 max tends to decline with age, and maintaining or improving it through regular aerobic exercise, zone 2, and then we'll get into the sprint training, can improve your VO2 max to have a positive effect on overall health and longevity. Then we have metabolic markers. Metabolic health involves factors as blood glucose levels, insulin sensitivity, cholesterol, specifically looking at the breakdown of your LDL and triglycerides. We want to look at inflammation and body composition, lean body mass versus fat mass. Now, the importance of metabolic health for longevity is because we're looking at preventing chronic conditions such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. It reflects metabolic health, the markers that we are looking at, which I do with the functional lab testing and blood chemistry panel. It's reflecting your body's ability to efficiently process and utilize nutrients, which is related to the blood sugar stability. Now, how is this connected to aging? Well, aging can be associated with changes in metabolism. This is what I do with Pnoe. I'm measuring your metabolism at rest and during exercise. How well do you handle your carbohydrates and fat fuel at rest and during various exercise intensities? So monitoring metabolic markers can help identify and manage potential health issues related to your metabolism. Very important. We can manage this before it gets to be a problem, which goes back to those markers that the doctor does not test. The doctor in your annual checkup, and I've just was arguing again with my insurance company and my doctor to get them to test insulin, which you can do on your own, on Own Your Own Labs or DHA Labs, or what do I use? Ulta Labs for my clients. And insulin is, say, $12 to $14. But for some freaking wrong, odd reason, insurance and doctors in your regular checkup are not measuring insulin as a preventative measurement marker to avoid type 2 diabetes. Because for years before you actually have type 2 diabetes, your insulin level will be higher. So we always want to get that checked. Why is it so difficult? I don't know. But this is why we should go to Hack Your Health Conference and why we should get our own lab test done and work with a coach to figure out what it is. Because insulin, optimal range is not 0. We need some insulin or else you're type 1 diabetic, but 1 to 5 millimoles. So high insulin above 5 is sign for insulin resistance, hypoglycemia, PCOS, obesity, certain medications, and insulinomas is another marker or clue. If you're lower than the 1, you probably are a type 1 diabetic. So we want to test and not guess if you have pre-diabetes, because if you have A1C 5.7 to 6.4% or higher, if you have a fasted glucose level of 100 to 125, you're probably pre-diabetic. So we want to look at your A1C, glucose, and insulin. Another thing I saw when I was going through my dad's labs, his glucose was over 100. Did they ever look at his insulin and look at his A1C and look at his liver markers and put it together that he probably insulin resistance and his liver congestion? No. We need to take our own health into our own hands and work with functional medicine investigators to figure out what's actually going on before it gets to be a problem. So yes, I'm on a mission to help you be healthier as you age. So muscle health, we talked about. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon really is creating awareness of the importance of not looking at fat loss, but looking at how is your muscle, how is your lean body mass? Because a lack of muscle is going to correlate with your metabolism, mobility, and balance, of course, but there's a lot more problems with having sarcopenia, the lack of muscle. It's age-related muscle loss, and preventing falls. And I was trying to research the risk, because I hear this all the time, but the risk of death, basically, if you fall and fracture your hip when you are older, you probably are not making it out of the hospital, which is my dad hurt his back. I've said this a few times, but that's kind of led to the beginning to his end in the hospital. So it's so important to have muscle health. And that's, again, my dad's, what happened to him is really inspiring me to kind of focus more on our aging process. And as I'm over 50 now, it's like, all right, I don't want that to happen to me. So what can we do now at age 50 to set us up for success when we are 80? So muscle health, sarcopenia is a common issue of aging, but resistance training and maintaining active lifestyle can help preserve muscle mass and function. And this is another separate podcast topic to go into, that a lot of people that are doing excess fasting and even taking these supplements to help with fat loss, the different prescription drugs that are being handed out like candy in the world right now, that they're not, and that twin study that everyone keeps asking me if I watched or not on Netflix. I just don't think I can bring myself to watch it. But it was funded, by the way, by Beyond Meat. So you can tell it's going to be all about vegan, but they did not show if they were losing fat weight or lean body mass. You don't want to lose lean body mass. So if you are doing a weight loss program and doing fasting, you really should be testing monthly on InBody or DEXA scan or just skin fold calipers and make sure you are not losing that precious muscle as you get older. So big topic there. All right. So my point is to do this short show today is that cardiovascular fitness, your VO2 max, can influence your metabolic health. And this is also linked to maintaining muscle health. So as we hear metabolic health, we hear about muscle health, and we hear about cardiovascular fitness, your VO2 max. All this together, as I talk about the holistic method, impacts your aging process. So really, it's not just focusing on what is your VO2 max, how to improve that with your true zone 2, doing testing, figure out what actually is your zone 2, or do the maffetone formula, max aerobic function, training there, and then figure out your speed work, all out sprints, 10 to 30 seconds when you are fit. I was creating a foundation, lifting heavy weights after you built a foundation up as well. Don't start too fast because then you get injured. Now, what are the metabolic health markers besides exercising? What else can we do besides doing a metabolic test to track, are we doing all the right things so we can improve our longevity, so we can live a longer, happier quality of life, right? So maybe that's the whole thing. We want to live as many people have their sayings now, live a longer, better life. To live a longer, better quality of life. I'm typing this in, obviously. But a lot of people just say live longer. But don't you want to make sure that long life is quality? You're thriving, not struggling. I don't want to live long when I'm like incapacitated in some senior home, living on a bed every day. Not so much fun. So how do you know if you're doing all the right things now? What should your ranges be when you go to your annual checkup, or ideally you're doing inside tracker or doing the functional lab test assessment with a coach as myself or somebody else every quarter, or at least every 6 months, you are redoing your blood work. Now, it doesn't cost that much to do blood work. Say you're doing a panel, $300 on Alta Health. If you use my link, you get 20% off. But the metabolic health markers that you might get with your doctor, you are probably normal, but not in my world. So functional medicine ranges way different. All right, so we want to look at blood glucose levels. These are the markers of metabolic health. Now, what is optimal? What does metabolic unhealthy bring you to? So let's dive into that. Blood glucose levels. This is the optimal range of fasted blood glucose levels. Should be between 70 to 100. Now, I would say, I know in our functional medicine, I should pull up my spreadsheet so I can just flip it over, but those numbers might be a little bit different in functional medicine in our FDN range. So our optimal range for glucose is 75 to 86 in our functional medicine range. Now, I'm going to open this up. Your blood reference guide, you can ask me for and get a copy of. That is the easiest way to see it all together. Now, if I am getting curious if I'm insulin insensitive, you need to do what's called a HOMA-IR, homeostatic model assessment of insulin resistance. The value below 1.0 generally considered normal. Lower insulin sensitivity is associated with insulin resistance, precursor to type 2 diabetes. Then we talked about your hemoglobin A1C. That is A1C levels below 5.7 are considered normal. Levels 5.7%, 6.4% may indicate pre-diabetes. 6.5% higher may indicate diabetes type 2. So, and again, which is funny to me, that type 2 diabetes is completely reversible. So it's a choice when people have type 2 diabetes. They're not educated from their doctor, or the Diabetes Association really doesn't educate you the right way. It just makes you stay on insulin, make you worse. But really looking at what you can do with nutrition and change that, because people actually have to do the work though. And most people out there maybe don't know that they can make some changes and don't have to be on medication, be type 2 diabetic. So anyways, another pet peeve. Cholesterol, another thing you want to look at, but your total cholesterol, LDL, HDL they look at, but really looking at lower is not better, because I don't like LDL lower than 100 is not ideal, to get it. But triglycerides you want to look at, of course, HDL and LDL, but you'll hear about the different measurements nowadays of the type of LDL, the breakdown. So we've got to look at a whole lipid profile and ideally get more than just the standard. But remember, high cholesterol doesn't mean you need to have need statin drugs. So we want to look at that of why. Always look at why. Why are these higher or lower? So cholesterol optimal range is 170 to 200. And our functional medicine ranges and triglycerides are 70 to 80 are optimal. Higher and lower ranges indicate clues to something else. And then HDL, 55 to 85. Now, higher HDL isn't better, because higher can indicate you may have an autoimmune disorder. Interesting, right? For years, when I started my my adrenal exhaustion investigation, my HDL level was so high, they didn't know why. They thought I was eating too much fat because I was really into strict keto back then, 10 years ago, 2013. And now I look at this in our FDN practitioner course going, whoa, wait a minute. Did I have autoimmune issues and no one actually knew that? And I was seeing all these different naturopaths, but they didn't look at the whole picture and put the missing pieces of a puzzle together, which is what we do as practitioners. Investigate. So gluten, infections, heavy metal toxicity, nutritional deficiencies are top triggers of autoimmunity. So if your HDL is super high, doesn't mean you're super healthy. It's just a clue to something else. So remember, optimal range, that Goldilocks effect. Not too high, not too low, just the right amount. And then LDL cholesterol, we want it in FDN as 80 to 100. Now higher, obviously, can be other things. It could be diet high in refined carbohydrates, metabolic syndrome, fatty liver, oxidative stress, but also hypothyroidism, low thyroid, and H. pylori infection, which a lot of people have really high levels of H. pylori. So we need to look at that. So lower LDL cholesterol isn't better either, because there's some indication that LDL cholesterol that's low may be associated with higher susceptibility of infections, inflammation, and free radical damage. So really, we want to look at more than this optimal range or normal range that your doctor says. Okay, so cholesterol. All right, so back to metabolic health, blood pressure. Optimal is 120 over 80. Body mass index, which I never really like, because if you're a lean person, this number is kind of silly, but it's body mass index is a indicator of body fat, can influence by factors of muscle mass. So it's really not what I like to look at, but optimal range they use metabolic health is 18.5 to 24.9 is normal weight for BMI. Now we've got waist circumference. That's indicator of abdominal fat. So men, they use the number of waist circumference below 40 inches. And for women, for waist circumference for metabolic health markers are 35 inches or below, considered healthy. Excess abdominal fat associated with increased metabolic risk. And then our liver functions. So liver enzymes, we'll look at ALT and AST. And these markers for optimal range will vary, but are typically below certain threshold levels. Elevated liver enzymes may indicate liver dysfunction. But I added in my blog post, high ALT can be clues of dysfunction in the liver, fatty liver, liver cell damage, alcoholism, bile tract obstruction, excessive muscle breakdown or turnover, celiac, Crohn's, colitis, certain medications, viral infection. And then a low ALT, again, lower is not better, can be signs of vitamin B6 deficiency, fatty liver in early development, liver congestion, urinary tract infection. So then a high AST can be dysfunction outside the liver and bile tree, developing congestion, heart failure, cardiovascular dysfunction, liver cell. So anyways, all these can be clues if they are high. So what is the holistic method to live a longer, better quality life? Sleep. We know about sleep, hygiene routine. If you're wearing your Oura ring, as I do, it's an estimate because it's just getting it from your pulse from your finger, but ideally wearing a chest strap to track our stress management as well. For heart rate variability is important. Avoiding smoking and, of course, excessive alcohol consumption are major ones. And alcohol is a big hot topic right now. I kind of like that it's popular, but I think it's an important topic to go into as people do in dry January, dry February. But really, alcohol doesn't serve a lot of purpose, as people think. Causes more ice. I know a lot of people that wear Oura ring or Whoop, like myself, who really don't drink much or they don't drink at all now because alcohol, one drink will completely ruin my deep sleep. And if you don't get your sleep, my workout the next day and quality of life is not great. Exercise habits. We know aerobic exercise. We've talked about that zone 2. and working on figuring out how to train in zone 2 is going to be more individualized. So zone 2 and what type of interval training, that's where we want to test and not guess. And then strength training from Muscle Health. Of course, we've talked a lot about that, not doing 12, 15 repetitions, but I want you to build foundation first and then start doing heavier weightlifting, especially if you're aging female. And then, working on changing your workout routine and getting that muscle fatigue, or using the Be Strong blood flow restrictive bands, another little trick too. But also we want flexibility and balance. So mobility, stability, strength, and cardiovascular are all important parts of an exercise routine. So hopefully you're not just lifting heavy weights, you're not just doing cardio training, you are getting that yoga. I do some stretching routine before bed. We just put like 30 seconds. Huberman Lab did like 3 years ago, a podcast on flexibility that you can circuit through 3 rounds of 30-second stretches on left side and then right side, and that will help flexibility. So we started doing that at nighttime a few nights a week before bed, and actually nice way to end your day and help your sleep at night. Then, of course, nutrition. I don't like to say the lean proteins and whole grains, vegetables and fruits. I think what we need to focus on, stop counting calories all the time. Yes, calorie does matter, but I would focus on nutrient-dense foods, nutrient density. And I would say nutrient-dense quality proteins and healthy fats, but then your carbohydrates are going to be from nature, right? So I'm not strict all the time. I'll say weekends I might have my kind of cheat. I'm not 100% pure, as some people might say they are, but I'll have, say, tortilla chips from the grain-free ones, whatever they're called, made in avocado oil, coconut oil, and have that as a treat. But I have lots of grass-fed beef on it and cheeses, and make it a little more protein. And so it is having, majority of the time, nature's carbs as berries and seasoned sweet potatoes I had yesterday with some Parmesan cheese and butter. It's really, I think, focus on nutrient-dense foods, quality, and getting the nutrients you need from proper digestion of those foods is a really important part. So we don't want to look at toxic inflammatory fats. We want to avoid even canola oil and vegetable oils. So focus on that quality. Now, hydration, of course, I'm a big fan of Element and Redmond sea salt. Sorry, plane going overhead. And unsweetened. All right, sorry. In my glass house, and planes, helicopters fly really low around here to Elfin Forest. Checking out things. All right, Element tea unsweetened is my favorite. And Redmond sea salt. Redmond sea salt I put on all my food, and we get that giant bag. And I must be deficient because I can take a lot of salt, especially in coffee in the morning. Love putting my salt in my coffee. It's my new discovery. All right, so calorie control. I'm not a big fan of counting calories, but I do find people's calories in their resting metabolism tasks and then add in their movement throughout the day, TDEE, and thermic effect of food, and then add in their exercise. We can kind of guesstimate what calorie need you need per day, but nutrient density and balancing your macros stabilize your blood sugar, right? So we don't want to have foods that might be healthy for someone else, but they may spike up my blood sugar. So I think testing with the NutriSense is really important, and using a CGM for 30 to 90 days to track glucose and food sensitivities and your stress will help, right? So learning, we don't know what we don't know. So nutrient-rich foods to get your minerals, vitamins, all that. So then functional medicine, as we talked about how to track that, you want to get comprehensive blood testing, test your blood or your body composition, functional movement assessments you can do, different tests, inflammation. We want to look at those CRP marker, the triglycerides, but really getting this precision medicine, I think is so important. And I just started this week, by the way, another school program, because I always like to learn and continue my education every year. But now I'm going to study to get board certified as a health and wellness practitioner. And I'm going to be doing Wild Health Fellowship program the next 6 months, where I am going to be learning their precision medicine, which is adding more of the epigenetics, looking at genetics and how they impact everything. So really tying everything together. This was just one missing part. I want to dive into more of the genetic part and putting that in with the blood chemistry. So I'm super excited to add that into my coaching program. In, 6 months from now, I'll be finished with the program. But you can start anytime if you want to do some coaching with me. I like to do the DNA company, but I'm sure I'll be switching to Wild Health once I finish their course. Okay, so VO2 max, let's finish this up. How can you get your VO2 max measured, and how can you check if it's optimal? Where should it be for your age, gender, and fitness level? You'll see where you are, baseline data, and what type of program you need to do to improve that marker. Because we know naturally your VO2 max declines with age after age 30. Crazy. And so we want to start taking ownership of our health and aging process in our 30s and 40s. Don't wait till you're older. And so what you can do to improve your VO2 max is test it first. And then we figure out, what are you not doing enough of? What have you been doing consistently? What are your goals? What's your blood chemistry panel say? What does your nutrition program and your lifestyle program look like? And then what time you have to exercise. And let's customize your ideal workout schedule, your ideal day, and how we can work on improving all these markers of metabolic health, improving your body composition to improve your muscle health, and your VO2 max to improve longevity. So interesting information, but I just wanted to point out that VO2 max, metabolic health, and muscle health are all working together to improve your aging process, your longevity. So if you are like me and going into the second half of your life, you may want to stop, pause, and reset and start looking at what you might need to do differently to improve your future self. So as I was thinking about it, it's more, what can I do now to improve my future self? So recreating my program now and reassess, ideally every 6 months or every quarter. What could I do differently? How can I recreate myself now so I can be the best version of myself when I'm older? So maybe your parents are a motivator, or some relatives or siblings, and really figure out, what are your genetics? What is your body doing as you age? Can you see any changes now that you want to take action of? So just some thoughts I want to throw in, but let me know your thoughts. And if you want to learn more, head to debbiepotts.net, checking out different lab tests that you can do on Rupa Health. You can do all sorts of exercise programming, but I think getting some baseline data is really helpful, and looking at your stress levels and all that's important. So just some info. Let me know your thoughts and what you're doing now to live your best life as you get older. Talk soon. Hey, my fellow aging endurance athletes, just a reminder, if you like what you listened to today, make sure to share this episode with your community. Head to debbiepotts.net to set up a free discovery call to learn more about my personalized coaching programs, especially if you are on a mission as myself to improve the aging process and start training to be my best self when I am 80, 90 years old. So I am on a mission to live my best life and be my best self the second half of my life. So if you're on the same mission as me, head over to my website and YouTube channel to learn more ways to improve the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.